Neurolinguistic programming. Um, Keywords and phrases derived from secret surveillance groups, purchased social media history set for um, design, suicide, torture, um Zugstrig. Uh, there is a particular literary device. Some of my persons were calling it euphemism. Um, it's the idea of saying and using neurolinguistic programming like into somebody's head. Anchoring is another criteria. There's that um, article called Defending Yourself Against Neurolinguistic Programming. But in the weaponization of it for torture, um, like here's an example, that a red lamp also means your mom who was killed when you were 12. And so overlapping those two meanings, like for anchoring, sensitizing, and having one something that is unrelated mean something else that is conjecture or forced and doesn't normally ever have overlapping meaning at all. There's particular devices within English. There was another mind control tortured American man that was talking about that. But that's an example. Like red lamp means your mom died when you were 12 too. And then all the torture around that can be used for private and public triggering. Yep. So, and I'm getting sensations of pain into my body, and then infections and neurolinguistic programming every 15 minutes. I destroyed my own rape codes using magnets. I've gotten some lead to cover remote torture, internal organ damage on my stomach. So, of the rolling, spinning Gatling gun shotgun in the sky that is Central Command and national defense and 24-hour clocks, before maybe even a lot of EMF perping was going on, and time zones, and the West Coast and the wonderful Midwest and the East Coast, and then all out of that, the international presence of the United States Armed Forces, the intel communities, all that. And in comes the EMF broadcast from their own Howard Circle to steal me, mind, body, and soul from my dorm 15 years ago. Our troops, men, women, enlisted officers, after September the 11th, which was a false flag, sent in a slingshot, boom, to those wars. Overt combat, death, hardship. And here am I, in this thing, the whole time, just covertly, getting torched every fucking day. He'll never think big picture again. Top 1% in the world for reading comprehension and cognitive thinking as a child genius. What did I do with that? I got on the state board of higher ed for my Western territory. And then never stopped getting tortured, more or less, ever since. I read up on a targeted individual that made it to grad school that wasn't supposed to write a musical, that he was identified as a future threat, for writing a musical. I enjoyed Nerd Kingdoms and solving problems that had long-term benefit. Out here in the West, my grandpa, who homesteaded in Butte, Montana, with an Irish immigrant family and community, served on the board of medicine and owned a hospital in a small part of rural Oregon. I served on the state board of higher ed a generation later after my fine father worked for the university system. I was student body president as a write-in. It's rare to get credentials of a master. You're like in the top 1% of academics there anyways. And then these other things I had, as my brother Chris talked about reading a article in Newsweek about my election, I had rocket skates to the top or rocket skates to the moon on. He was so impressed with his little brother. And at that point, as a young sprout coming out of Lake Oswego, go Pacers, I had severely underestimated the intel community, the deep state, the type of people that would spend 100 years worth of black budget ops and R&D to figure out mind control because they're psychotic bastards, and then do it anyways. Severely. We all do, or so many do. I'm fortunate to come by some writings and wisdom from people like elders on the Republican side of the political ideological bend in America, who know about things like false flags or intelligence community projects, or what it's like to make sacrifices for your country in the face of maybe insurmountable odds. So, lefty right handshake to all the Republican TI POWs. Like, my perps and handlers and shit will make an itch on my nose. So my hand will go up to itch my nose. So, like, as he's filming this for the broadcast, he and the 5,000 that decided 15 years ago that I deserve to be an enemy combatant along with all of the people in the Middle East they're about to kill. And I'm an American. I'm actually a better American than most by many measures. McAfee still has a better freedom cage though, or freedom barracks. It's freedom barracks. It's funny because we're not free. It's happening all over the world. This tech and the planet Earth and the human condition, it's more than I can describe, even in silos of information, like a public health problem, or, you know, even one category of war crime, eugenics. Like, it's so many moving parts and clusterfucks all at once that it's hard to get a grip on yourself when you're hit with NLP every 15 to 20 seconds, let alone like the really horror part of the world. So be wise to things I can't change. And I'm a Buddhist, but seeing some of this horror and shit, like, you really do appreciate things like the heavenly virtues in Christianity and the 10 Commandments. And although it seems very contradictory, thou shalt not kill, I am humbled and then also humiliated by some like folks in the intel community in the United States. They're like, oh, okay, how's it going now there, Indiegogo at 40? We haven't killed you yet. Fucking bloody Gina up there. I'm not getting any more rough Congress. I destroyed my rape codes. Yeah. Anyways, where was I with this? 40. Oh, elaborate changing of the guard for the UK. I'm so happy. Either one of those three men would do probably just fine. The international synthetic telepathy agenda, I'd fucking lose for it. Even incarnating 2013, older than the internet that's 30. Like, I'm outmatched by the whole thing. It doesn't matter how fucking smart I am, and people are reading my thoughts at speed thought and then using that shit in the full force of the military against me, or, you know, all of the hijinks, the shenanigans, understatement, the real horror that's going on at human trafficking. Oh, I just got hit in my eyeball. And this remote torture. And people being able to sit on those headgears and then throw out a monitored consciousness here, or at Kevin Christian's house, or Dr. Catherine Horton's, or Project Camelot Carrie Cassidy's, or John Lear, or my parents, or my brothers, or my cousins, or Wes Penray, or all the folks worried about escaping this horror that is mind and body slavery from these systems. I used to call it disease language, and just barking up the wrong fucking tree. So here's an example also of how even non-communication, non-verbal communication in this can be horrible. Like, there's a woman who I followed on Twitter who was in the program. She was a TI, identified as a young Latina, Hispanic woman, and somebody has her rape codes in a perp gang. And to incorporate more of the torture into her life, in addition to being remote torture raped, when her gang has incorporated street theater that she's described seeing rape face. So a guy who's in on it, maybe has her rape codes too, gets to come up and go like, and torment this American war. And he's passed out on one of those machines, free from death, free from any legal repercussions. Maybe has a huge team of gang stalkers that would even break him out of prison, could get rape codes or mind and body slavery codes for just about any walking human couch that he wants. She sends tweets like frantically in vain to like the government she thought was supposed to help her, like Donald Trump, and the circular filing bin of they're exterminating us slowly anyways, and it's worse than death. So I can barely help myself, let alone another TI. Seems kind of foolish to me, but I try to reach out to them, but we're systematically disrupted and denied any ability to really even organize from those headsets. The digital divide also includes you getting designed for suicide if you don't have your headgear in a gang. Or at least that's been my experience in the digital divide of all of this, in a second entendre that is really painful, worse than death, and I have had no escape from it for 15 years. We're systematically set up to way underestimate like outfits, like the intel function of not just our government but the world. I mean, I jibber jabber and say some bad words and swear here and there and cuss and get pissed about being tortured. I wish I would have studied bioswells and pulp, or landscape architecture, or taught people to fish or go river rafting. Instead, I chose college leadership, being a political dissident, and tortured for 15 years. I didn't really choose, it chose me. And I have more in common with a lot of those warriors that went over there and fought, that now have come back. Some of them MK Ultra, hearing voices, and It's rare in a civilization when you have an army that has seen combat for, gosh, is that why it's been so long? And I'm trying to survive the next 20, 30 years, and it's an international battlefield EMF. I don't know if these people are from Putin's Russia. I don't. These 5,000 invading within, dividing and conquering, and I really don't. I don't know if they have headsets attached to their consciousnesses as monitors half the time either. I don't have a constitution, I don't have a Bill of Rights. I don't even have control over my mind and body and haven't for 15 years. I'm a slave of the worst kind. Doesn't matter our skin color, our nationality, our reason for becoming TI, we're being broadcast, and it's a crime against creation itself. And no monitor is God, and no perp is God. And I can't save you. You have to save yourself. Some of these monitors throwing around consciousnesses don't even think there's life after death. I think if you can separate your consciousness from your body with that headgear Kevin Christian describes and others deny, it's more likely there's life after death or separation of consciousness from that which was. It goes dust to dust. But, what grows up maybe even not registering through a brainstem pulse and a lit up cranium just because the EMF can't see it when people die doesn't mean it doesn't transfer. I mean, if you were brilliant in construction and stuff like that, you would have an extra layer over the layer cake, but unfortunately that ends up in memory wipes to the moon, is my understanding. But that's some of the logic I'm wrestling with these real devils. Spanish think they get away with murder. Real devils. So picking my battles is difficult. I'm tortured every 15 to 20 seconds. That affected voice there, I've been prodded and poked by a lot of different voices, mostly Caucasian, but I did come up with a Southern response. Because the South was being provoked. Yeah. And then I've met nice, really well investigated into the perp end of stuff I didn't know for 15 years, taught me more than a PhD has that whole time. Like a real soldier for truth and virtue and Christian virtue and disclosure and all of this, Kevin Christian of Atlanta, who's no dummy. We in the North may have opinions about the way we talk and the people in the South talk, and we're all Americans, and I think that's kind of cool in all of this, is that I've actually met other TI from the South who are wonderful people. So, and they're not stupid at all. I don't even, could you place a Northwest accent? I can't even. I just think I talk American or whatnot, but a Northerner. A Yankee! Anyways, good night. Targeted individuals, especially. I want to take out some satellites. I don't know. This is not. It's so much unnecessary suffering. This synthetic telepathy and EMF perping. War crimes. It's not Buddhist. It's not Christian.